What happens when a senior military commander publicly demands $1 billion from a foreign government while threatening to sever diplomatic ties? In April 2026, that question moved from speculation to reality when Muhoozi Kainerugaba used social media to press financial demands on Turkey, while also making unconventional personal remarks that drew global attention. The stakes extend beyond rhetoric. Uganda has deployed troops in Somalia for nearly 20 years, contributing thousands of personnel to regional security operations, meaning any diplomatic rupture could affect ongoing counter-terrorism efforts in East Africa. What fundamentally changes now depends on whether this episode escalates, stabilizes, or is quietly managed. If tensions deepen, Uganda could disrupt bilateral relations with Turkey, affecting trade, diplomatic coordination, and potentially regional security cooperation. If the situation is contained, it may remain an isolated controversy without structural consequences. If it evolves into negotiation, it could redefine how states frame compensation for long-term military deployments abroad. To understand how this situation emerged, you need to examine Uganda's role in Somalia since the mid-2000s. Uganda has been one of the largest troop contributors to African Union-led missions combating Al-Shabaab, an extremist organization linked to Al-Qaeda. At various points, Uganda has deployed several thousand troops under frameworks such as AMISOM and its successor missions. These deployments have been sustained for nearly 2 decades, involving significant financial and human costs. Uganda's leadership has consistently framed this role as a contribution to both regional stability and international security. Within this context, Muhoozi Kainerugaba's statements reflect a specific argument about burden sharing. He suggested that Uganda has carried a disproportionate share of security responsibilities in Somalia, while other countries have benefited economically from reconstruction and infrastructure projects, particularly in Mogadishu. His position implies that countries engaged in commercial activity should also contribute more directly to security costs, framing the requested $1 billion as a form of compensation rather than aid. The way this argument was communicated is central to the controversy. Kainerugaba indicated that failure to meet the demand could lead Uganda to cut diplomatic ties with Turkey within a defined timeframe and close its embassy in Kampala. He also advised Ugandan citizens to reconsider travel to Turkey, citing safety concerns. These statements were delivered through public posts rather than formal diplomatic channels, amplifying their visibility and impact. The situation is further shaped by internal Ugandan dynamics. Kainerugaba is not only the military chief, but also the son of Yoweri Museveni, who has been in power since 1986. This relationship places his statements within a broader context of political influence and succession speculation. While it is not unusual for military leaders to comment on security matters, direct financial demands directed at foreign governments are atypical, particularly when framed alongside personal remarks that attracted additional attention. Turkey's role in Somalia provides another layer of context. Over the past decade, Turkey has expanded its presence in Mogadishu through infrastructure development, humanitarian assistance, and military training initiatives. Turkish companies have been involved in managing key facilities, such as ports and airports, contributing to economic activity in the Somali capital. This engagement has positioned Turkey as a significant external actor in Somalia's reconstruction, even as African Union forces, including Ugandan troops, have provided security. Recent developments show that Kainerugaba's statements are not isolated. He also expressed strong support for Israel, indicating a willingness to deploy up to 100,000 Ugandan troops if required. While this figure is not tied to an official deployment plan, it signals a broader pattern of assertive and sometimes unconventional public messaging. Similar incidents occurred in 2022, when he made headlines for comments involving European political figures, demonstrating a recurring communication style that blends strategic messaging with personal expression. Now consider the first scenario. What if Uganda follows through on the implied timeline and downgrades or cuts diplomatic ties with Turkey? In that case, the immediate effects would likely include reduced bilateral engagement, potential disruption to Turkish-linked projects in Uganda, and a reassessment of cooperation in Somalia. While Uganda's troop deployments are coordinated through multilateral frameworks, bilateral tensions could complicate coordination on the ground, particularly if they affect logistics, funding, or political support. A second scenario moves in a different direction. What if the statements are not translated into policy, and both governments choose to de-escalate through quiet diplomacy? In that situation, the episode could be absorbed without long-term consequences. Public rhetoric would be separated from official policy, allowing both sides to maintain existing relationships while avoiding escalation. This outcome would reinforce the idea that social media statements, even by senior officials, do not always translate into formal action. There is also a third possibility that sits between these outcomes. Uganda could use the controversy to initiate broader discussions about funding mechanisms for peacekeeping and counter-terrorism operations. If framed carefully, this could shift the conversation toward burden sharing among states involved in Somalia's stabilization. However, achieving this would require moving from unilateral demands to multilateral negotiation frameworks, involving organizations such as the African Union and international partners. The geopolitical implications extend beyond Uganda and Turkey. In East Africa, stability in Somalia remains a shared priority, with multiple external actors involved in both security and reconstruction. Any disruption in coordination risks creating gaps that groups like Al-Shabaab could exploit. At the same time, the episode highlights tensions between military contributors and economic stakeholders, raising questions about how costs and benefits are distributed in long-term interventions. At a broader level, the situation illustrates how communication channels are reshaping diplomacy. Statements made on social media can rapidly influence perceptions, even when they are not backed by immediate policy changes. For governments, this creates a dual challenge: managing official positions while responding to public messaging that may not follow traditional diplomatic protocols. As this situation develops, the key indicators to watch include whether Uganda's government formalizes any of the positions expressed, how Turkey responds through diplomatic channels, and whether multilateral organizations address the underlying issue of burden sharing in Somalia. The outcome will depend not only on the content of the statements, but on how they are translated or not translated into policy. What remains uncertain is whether this episode represents a temporary controversy or a signal of shifting expectations in international security cooperation. The answer will shape not just bilateral relations, but also how states negotiate the balance between military contribution, economic involvement, and political recognition in complex regional conflicts.